So guys, it is time. As I do hope you enjoyed this video upcoming, it's time to jump into The Last Guardian as Omnimon X makes his debut, as he is all too powerful and will be the focus of today's video, as I'm going to tell you how Omnimon X makes decks powerful. As we're about to jump into it, I just wanted to thank you all for being a part of the Ed Army, and to make sure that you are subscribed, you like the videos, and it does help us out. But I'm not going to shamelessly plug for too long. We're jumping into the video right now, as I want to go over this card because I do think Omnimon X Antibody is going to be one of the best cards going forward in terms of being like a pickup you keep onto. It's going to make decks strong, and it's something that you have to watch out for in metagames going forward, because this card is an absolute sneaker if it can get into you. So we're going to be talking about it right now, as we're going to look over the effect really quickly, because I do think there might be people who don't read this card, but there are a lot of people who already know what it does, so bear with me on this. First, when it digivolves, it can digivolve on top of Omnimon for a cost of 2. It generically digivolves on top of red and or blue level 6s for a cost of 6. In its main skills, it carries Raid, Piercing, and Blocker. And then on play when digivolving, if Omnimon or X Antibody is in this Digimon's Digievolution cards, you can choose one or both players' Digimon and delete all other Digimon. Then you return one of your opponent's Digimon to the bottom of the deck. During the end of the turn, once per turn, one of your Digimon may gain Rush for the turn and attack without suspending. Very cool. Now you're probably wondering, well, okay, this card already sounds pretty solid, but what makes it good? Well, starting off with the things that make it good, it has generic benefits. First, it's a top-end threat, which is its main focus. It really does allow you to just go on top of anything. Additionally, it's a blitz enabler, sort of, where it has the ability to give something rush and attack. This could also mean that it can just kind of give itself rush and attack if you hard play it, which makes it already really strong. But the key factor is that ability to attack without suspending means you're going to have something check your opponent's security or hit them, and it doesn't suspend, so already really solid. Additionally, it is a board wipe and a bounce, which is, although conditional, still extremely powerful, because people will not expect it, or if they do expect it, they're going to be in trouble because they may not be able to cover their field losses quick enough. And then finally, it's just searchable as well, which makes this card even more dangerous. Now you're wondering, how is it searchable? Well, it is now a blue, red, and white Digimon, making it available to be searched by memory boosts and trainings of blue and red. So Omnimon X is now searchable in these decks that may have just wanted to tag it in as a part of its generic searching power. So now that you have a searchable board wipe, this is somewhat dangerous. Now, there are some conditions to running the deck in order to get the board wipe, that being that you must run some type of Omnimon to digivolve on top of, or carrying the X Antibody. However, both of these options are extremely easy to fulfill, as many decks already inherently will run the X Antibody or Protoform or some type of X Antibody to use it as a way to gain or access more of their strategy. And Omnimon in the form of Blitz Omni is usually something you see slid into some decks, so it isn't impossible to get this card onto the field with these conditions set up. Very difficult, so it's very viable. But the main focus is because of how many strategies inherently benefit from playing Omnimon X. It is crazy. Any deck that happens to be blue or red in its combination of colors, or decides to want to run this with the usage of X Antibody, is something that can take advantage of the deck. As I have mentioned already, that you must play the X Antibody or the Blitz Omni or Omnimon as a way of actually getting access to that board wipe. It doesn't actually mean that you have to run Omnimon X in your deck for that purpose, as some people may be actually tagging it in as another alternative to Blitz Omni, as it's a way to finish the game, as its end of turn effect does not require you to have the X Antibody or Omnimon in its sources. And even more importantly than that, this card is still a blocker at the end of the day at 16,000 DP, so inherently when you drop it onto the field, your opponent may be more inclined to have to respect it as a threat if it's protecting you. So it makes this card very solid. But moving into the decks that it benefits the most, we have to look at the decks it was actually kind of designed around. So Omnimon Ace is a deck that I think has always been a part of the metagame since its release. However, it's never been a top threat, and it's usually fitting in that rogue category. However, at a lot of major events, you'll see someone with Omnimon Ace usually take it to a top table. I think it's more of a pilot has to be patient and willing to play this deck in order to get it through the metagame. But this deck is absolutely boosted by the release of Omnimon X. The main reason why is that now you have another option to digivolve Wargreymon and Melgarurumon into if you so choose, and additionally with Omnimon Ace on the field, you can then slap it into Omnimon X by digivolving over it and turning it into an extremely powerful threat with its ability to board white, but more importantly with Wargreymon and Melgarurumon's inheritable sources. Their effects mention Omnimon Digimon or Omnimon in name, so they will be able to use Omnimon X to attack. With Wargreymon effect, they'll trash the top security, and with Melgarurumon's effect, you will be able to unsuspend. Combine that with the innate piercing and raid effect of Omnimon X, and this card is doing a massive amount of damage to your opponent, pretty much conducting, I would say, 2 checks. But more importantly, with the effect of the Wargreymon, you're conducting about 4 checks because it will unsuspend, but it is a once per turn effect, so you're doing only 3 checks. However, it is still important to realize that these effects are solid, and Omnimon X is a great addition to the Omnimon A strategy as it gives it more room and leg room to stand on. But finally, we're talking about the one that I think everybody wants to focus on, that being the Royal Knights. Royal Knights get a massive bump, and they will be obviously more playable going into this format. The key thing that makes this card so good in the actual deck is that it's able to go on top of so many other Royal Knights, but on top of it as well, you actually digivolve into this card, which is something that has been relatively unseen in the form of the Royal Knight strategy because they don't really focus on digi-evolution thanks to Yggdrasil. However, because of the wording on Omecamon and the wording on Yggdrasil, you're actually not digivolving this card on your turn. However, you are digivolving on your opponent's turn to surprise them with Omnimon X. Now, the way you do this is through the use of Omecamon from BT20, but the key factor here still is the fact that Omnimon X is slotted into this deck to be built into the deck, so that it has an option to be played in, as Omecamon is the way that you will be able to deploy your Omnimon X against your opponent by forcing them out. Additionally, being able to be partnered up alongside its Omnimon counterpart in this format, or basically in this deck at all, is going to be another tool, as Omnimon is able to possibly deploy this Digimon out because it is Omnimon X, but more importantly, it does have that ability to simply just pop out and surprise your opponent because of how good the Royal Knight strategy is. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting format, but ultimately, this is one of the decks that really does benefit, obviously, for Omnimon X because it was designed around it, so very good. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Pretty much, I could go through every instance of where this card is powerful, but I do think this discussion video doesn't need to go on that long. A lot of people who have already probably watched the first portion of the video will know that Omnimon X pretty much explains why it's so good. Every other deck just needs to find a way to play it, so that's pretty much how you should focus on it. But guys, that's all I've got for you today. I do hope you enjoyed this. I did make this video a bit more short so that you don't have to spend too much time here, but you can also enjoy it when you check out some of my other videos. But as always, this has been Brad from the Ad Army signing off, and for all of you out there, to sign on.